Christians sometimes have the gift or curse of discernment of spirits. And I say cursed because nobody believes this stuff. You know, my pastor, when I tell him some of these stories, he thinks I'm nuts because nobody speaks with demons or hears or sees demons or casts demons out of people except, you know, hucksters on TV. And to do this kind of thing is, it's kind of rare. I mean, I don't know many people that do this outside of, you know, the guys in the Catholic Church that are the pros, you know, the experts.
There are three categories. Category 1 are demons heard but not seen. Number 2 are demons that are seen but not heard. That includes seeing Lucifer, and it includes demons that have been cast out. And the third category, demons heard through humans.
The following are sessions where demons either spoke to me through people, and that's happened many times actually, or sessions where I've actually been with somebody that was into the occult, where demons spoke to me without a person around, and the things they said to me and the intensity of what they were trying to communicate to me. I don't speak to demons. I've threatened a few of them when they've come at me, you know, and threatened me, and that's about all I would say to anybody. Do not ever speak to demons because they will twist whatever you say. They want to engage you in conversation because they can control you that way. So do not talk to demons. Do not communicate with them. The first time a demon ever spoke to me was actually in this room, and it's right about where I'm sitting now. I had somebody that was staying with me for about 8 years, I guess, and they had been a kidnap victim. And their grandfather, as it turns out, and I learned this later as time went on, was a 33-degree Freemason. And I believe, and I know this because of what happened in future events, that she had a demon or a series of demons that were related to Freemasonry, which is when you get up in the upper echelons, it becomes Luciferian. They actually believe and worship Lucifer as the light bearer. And so she was staying with me for a number of years, and she had a lot of problems. She would go in and out of hospitals. I would take her to hospitals all the time. They would give her a different diagnosis each time. Nobody could figure out. One therapist she had that was up in the Westfield area in New Jersey told me that they gave her a test for multiple personality disorder. And multiple personality disorder, the test that she was given turned out to be negative. And they called me in for a couple of sessions toward the end, and the woman that was giving the tests took me aside one, you know, at the last session, I guess, and said, do you believe in God? And I said, yes, I do. And she said, well, I want to let you know that, you know, the tests are negative. She does not have multiple personality disorder. But the thing that spoke to me during the last session together was not her. She has a demon. And she said, I'm a psychiatrist, so I can't say this, you know, as part of the diagnosis, but I'm telling you this for your own safety and well-being. And she said, if you tell anybody I said this, I will deny it because I don't want to lose my license. So I didn't believe it. I thought, oh, come on, you know. But in the back of my mind, I held that idea. And so one day I was here in this room, and I had a number of chairs that were sitting around. It was a nighttime, and she had a panic attack that was so severe that she was, for 3 days, she was up straight. You know, she didn't get any sleep. And she was at the point where she was literally pulling her hair out of her head. And she was on the floor right here in front where I'm sitting now, and she passed out. And so I was trying to figure out how to get her into a chair. And I sat down, I knelt next to her, and I carefully lifted her over to a chair, and suddenly she woke up. And instead of the face of panic, she looked wonderful. She looked radiant. And she looked at me, and she sat on the ottoman in front of me where I'm sitting now, and she smiled, and I said, are you okay? You look you look okay now. And she said, so, you think you're one of the elect? Well, you're not. And then she started spouting biblical scripture. And she went on through, I recognized some of it from Samuel, some of the Old Testament from the Torah, and but some of it I didn't. I had never heard before. But she was trying to prove to me that I was not one of the elect. And I kept my mouth shut because I know that she's never read the Bible. This is a person that, was not very religious and had never read the Bible. She admitted this to me later, that she'd never read the Bible. And so after she was done, it took like 5 or 10 minutes of spouting the scripture at me. She got up, she went upstairs, and she slept for 3 days straight. Didn't even get up to go to the bathroom. I was here, so I know this. And slept for 3 days straight, had no memory of what had happened. And so I kept that in the back of my mind. I didn't understand at that time what the elect was. I'm not one of the elect. Elect for what? Exactly. So I had to research it, and there's a lot more to this story, and I will reiterate some of that later, but that was the first demon that ever actually spoke to me and tried to prove to me that I was not one of God's elect. So the first time I encountered a demon, I didn't see it, but I encountered one, was when I was 19, and I was with some very dubious characters from Lehigh University, where I attended. I was there for architecture at that time, pre-architecture, and we drove down to Rittenhouse Square in Philadelphia, where my friend's father had a townhouse with an elevator, very nice. And so the three of us, got high at his place. We smoked some pot, and this is back in the 70s. And we went out, I remember, to a place that sold, bongs and pipes and things like that in town. And in the downstairs, they had a BDSM chamber. And there were some people that were pretty scary down there, wearing leather. And they were eyeing me like, who's this young man? So we got out of there pretty quickly. And we went to see an X-rated movie together. Woohoo! We saw, I think it was Alice in Wonderland. And we came out afterward and saw three young ladies down the street. And they were looking at us, we were looking at them. They were wearing mini skirts back in the 70s. And wow, maybe we can, there's three of us and three of them. And so as they approached us, it became apparent that they were not young ladies. They were actually guys that were dressed up in drag, had, really long hair, or they were trans, back in the 70s. But, so, we got out of there pretty quickly. But it's like the whole world had flipped upside down while I was down there. And everything was dark. I mean, everything we did was dark. The whole encounter was dark. And we went to see the Flying Burrito Brothers, which was a rock group. And it was in downtown. There was a big, long line. And my friends left me, I remember. And I was alone in line. And as I was standing there without any money or not even my car keys or anything, I thought, this is what it must be like to be Jesus. And, he was homeless, and he really had nothing but himself and, his relationship with God. What a weird thing to think, because I was not a Christian then. I was an atheist. And I remember going into the concert, and I was sitting right there in the front row at the stage. And there was a point where the lead guitar player started doing a solo, and he got down on one knee, and he looked at me right in the eyes as he was playing. And he started to play so beautifully. I mean, it was the most enriching guitar solo probably of his entire life. And right in the middle of it, as our eyes were locked on each other, I heard a twanging sound, and not one, but all the strings on his guitar broke at once. And he tried to get his guitar repaired, couldn't. They didn't have enough strings in their back, and so we had to end the concert. But it was just so mysterious and weird. And I went back to my friend's place. They were sitting down watching TV. I was sitting in a nice, comfortable chair behind them. And as I was kind of half drifting off, I felt something like a presence, and I heard it. It sounded like a waterfall and a rushing of wind, almost like what the Bible talks about, in Acts, where there's a rushing of wind. And it was howling in my ears. It was almost like, I could hear wings like beating furiously. And this thing settled down on top of me, and I became completely paralyzed. And I realized that there was something that was not human and not physical, that was actually descending on me. And I tried to fight it, I tried to fight the paralysis, and I couldn't. And I felt this thing going up and down my spine suddenly. It was almost like it was trying to give me an orgasm or something, which is, pretty creepy. It's very invasive. I felt like I was being raped spiritually in this chair. And this went on for like 5 minutes, and I couldn't speak, I couldn't move, and I could feel this thing on the top of my head, and inside my body. And I finally broke free. I remember getting up, and it was still going on. I could still feel this thing going up and down my spine. And I ran into the bathroom, and I remember my friends were looking at me like, what's wrong with him? And I looked myself in the mirror, and I saw the face of Jesus. And this is before I had a beard. I was only 19, but I saw Jesus's face in the mirror. And that was the point where I decided to become a Christian. That was a big step for me, because from atheist to Christian, I suddenly believed that there was a spiritual side to the universe. And I was terrified. I was scared straight in 5 minutes. The first time I saw a demon was back in 1999 when I was living in Tewksbury, New Jersey. I was way out in the woods, middle of nowhere. My ex-wife was in India on a business trip, and I was there by myself. I contracted pneumonia, and I was between jobs. I did not have medical at that point, and I thought I would tough it out by myself. And I had lots of water. I'd had pneumonia once before, so I know I could do it. So after about a week or so, I was I was wiped out, and I was panting for every breath of air. I remember laying there, and I was on the verge of passing out. I didn't think I was going to make it. I thought I was going to die at one point. And that was when I saw it. I was gasping for breath. I was on the verge of unconsciousness, and suddenly there was like a white smoke in the room, and I could see something sitting on my chest, and it was looking at me. And as I looked at it, it moved in and appeared right in my eyes like this, and it was this kind of a reddish, ugly face. It was the face of a demon. And that was the first time. So in one of my sessions with the woman that turned out to be a witch at Hoffman, LaRoche, I think it was maybe session 10, and I lay on her table in her office, across from my office, and she sat behind me, and she again was a cranial sacral therapist. So she put her hands on my neck, and then she put her hands next to my ears and my head, and she went into pure silent mode. And I lay there and I relaxed. I let go of my arms, my legs. I shut off my internal dialogue, which is kind of key I found out, to this process. And I kind of drifted off, and I began to hear music, and it was beautiful. I mean, it reminded me of Jimi Hendrix a little bit, in that it was kind of psychedelic, but it was very, very childlike. And I heard somebody singing, a man singing. I guess that's why I thought of Jimi Hendrix. It was a black guy singing, and he was singing and almost rhyming, and the lyrics rhymed with each other. So it was like a song I was hearing. I'm not a musical guy, and I'm not a creative guy either, musically. So for me to start hearing a new song like this was just so bizarre. And I focused on the song and the beauty of the lyrics and the way it rhymed, and I wanted to hear what he was saying, so I focused even harder. And as I listened to him, I realized that he was singing about entering a building and murdering all the people that were inside the building. And I was so aghast, and I was shocked by this, because the format was so innocent, and to talk about something so heinous, and the childlike way he sang about it, like he was doing it gleefully, almost like a child, with no remorse. And it shocked me. And that evening was the evening where there was a guy, a black man, and this triggered my memory of this whole song. And I think it was in Dallas, and he decided that he was going to kill all the police in the Dallas Police Department. And he had a high-powered rifle, and I remember he picked off one or two of the police as they exited the building, and he was staked out. He was going to kill everybody that came in and out of that building, and he was caught. And I'm not sure what happened to him, but That was the first voice. And then the second of three voices was a guy that was so pathetic, and he was terrified. Oh, I can't believe I'm here. What an awful place. What am I doing here? And I was in Hoffman, LaRoche, in the area where they have all the viruses in the world, the worst viruses, and they do testing. And I know this because I was an auditor, and I would have to go into the 20 below zero vaults that were the size of a football field, and they had all kinds of stuff. They had DNA that was filled with all kinds of, pestilences and things. And so this place was kind of spooky, but this person or this spirit knew where it was and didn't want to be there. And, was a little crybaby. And then the third voice I heard was the one that upset me the most. And this kind of ended my sessions, at least for that period, because it was very, very evil. It sounded evil. And all it did was it was like somebody speaking in my ear, and it said, "I'm the one who shoved your mom." And I thought about it for a second, and weeks before, my mom, who was in a nursing home, was walking from one room into the next room, and from her story, from her account, she felt like somebody lifted her off the ground and shoved her into the next room, and she broke her hip. And for 8 or 12 hours, I think it was, she was lying on the floor, unable to get help or assistance. Somebody actually came in and found her that way with a broken hip. And so she had to go in for hip surgery. And when I went to visit her, the guy that was taking her to the bathroom, there was a male orderly, and I noticed when he would help her into the, into the wheelchair to take her into the bathroom, that on his arm was a tattoo, and it was a devil. It was like a devil's head, a red Satan head with all this filigree. I mean, it was beautiful, but it was so dark. And I thought, what is this guy doing helping old people into bathrooms and stuff? Why would they hire this guy? He's definitely into some weird stuff. So that was the three voices that I heard in my last session, at least for a while. I went back again after this, and I went back because I couldn't believe that all this stuff had happened to me. But those were three demonic voices that I heard when I was at Hoffman LaRoche.
Behold, I give unto you power to tread on serpents and scorpions, and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means hurt you. So I will prove to you that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins. Then Jesus turned to the paralyzed man and said, "Stand up, pick up your mat, and go home."